Good evening. I'm Flora Fraser, the chair of the prize, and I'd like to greet all the ever-growing ELHB community, and that includes members of the Longford family, which itself includes many Frasers, Pakenhams, and many names beyond that. It also includes past ELHB judges, much valued, and it includes our 20, I won't be able to work it out, but over 20 winners since Peter Soros and I founded the prize after my grandmother Elizabeth Longford's death in 2002. It is huge for us that you and winners, past shortlistees, and other key supporters encourage us every year, possibly with the help of a little bolly. But before I hand over to Roy Foster, our chair of judges, I just wanted to mention a new ELHB initiative, the Elizabeth Longford Brief Lives 2025 Award, and you'll find details on our first ever publication, the ELHB Times, summer 2025, and writers aged 35 and under are encouraged to apply, writing an essay. I can see a few people sort of thinking how they can work out to be 35 or under on the 30th of September when it closes. These younger writers are encouraged to write an essay, a brief essay, on a character or characters of historical significance. The happy news is that Martin Ivans has generously suggested that he consider the winning essay for publication in the TLS. And is Martin here yet? No, never mind, we'll praise him in his... We come not to bury Martin, but to praise him. Further good news, Simon Shammer will present the winner with the £2,000 tax-free award at an Elizabeth Longford Night of History at the MPG next January 2026. Finally, before I hand over to Roy, I just want to thank Roy, our chair of judges, my mother, Richard Davenport-Hines, and Rana Mitter, some of the keenest wits in town and even in Harvard. Peter and I feel the honor and the privilege that historians and historical biographers of your caliber take the time to appraise the best historical biography of the year. Thank you.
All right.
Roy.
Tom, keep busy.
Thank you, Flora. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I'm speaking for my fellow judges when I say that one of the things that makes this prize so valuable to us is that we've had an opportunity to perhaps extend the range and vision of what a historical biography is. It's not necessarily parti pris, it's not hagiography, it's not, as a Romanian Yeats scholar once said contemptuously to me when I described writing Yeats's biography, trying to spend 18 years trying to be somebody else. It's not that at all. The impulse of the importance of examining historical lives isn't necessarily just to be devoted to examining admirable or worthy lives. There is equal historical importance to be looking at the lives of people who deserve perhaps less empathy and no sympathy. When I think of some of our some of our prizes over the years we've been doing this, one of my personal favourites was Ian Kershaw's Life of Lord Londonderry, Making Friends with Hitler. Another was Francis Wilson's book about J. Bruce Ismay, who did not go down with the Titanic, though he owned the White Star Line. And it's lives like that which are contrary to the main kings and queens and major politicians' drift that we are interested in examining as well. And I think that's represented by our very powerful shortlist this year. I'm going to go through them in alphabetical order of author. Stephen Alford's book on Robert Cecil shows the spider's web of surveillance which was spun by a calculating courtier in the world of Elizabeth I. It's a marvellous survey of that world. And it's also, the author intriguingly says in the introduction that he intended to write not a biography but a portrait. I think I would politely say we disagree. He's written both, and a very distinguished book it is. Tim Blanning's Augustus the Strong raises the demanding question of how an inept, aggressive, rumbustious, sexually incontinent character could make a complete mess of his political and dynastic ambitions and yet leave a great legacy of cultural and aesthetic achievement on the other hand. Helen Castor describes her study of Richard II and Henry IV as a tragedy, which suggests the Shakespearean inspiration behind this joint biography, which marvellously conveys the ruthlessness of the Lancastrian takeover of the monarchy. This theme is followed by Dan Jones, who also takes on Shakespeare in vividly evoking Henry V, especially his early career, and he emerges as a figure very unlike the bard's brilliant invention. He also shows the importance of the warrior king's achievements in creating the England that we know today. Finally, Adam Schatz's subtle and gripping life of Frantz Fanon shows how an intellectual influence is shaped and projected to become of immense historical importance. Another way in which I think this prize has tried to broaden the definition of significant historical biography. Well, I think any of these could have been a worthy winner of the ELHB, for the combination they all showed of scholarship, readability, empathy, psychological perception, and often astringent humour. The winner epitomised these qualities in spades. He opened a window into a contested area of the past, creating a riveting portrait not only of his hero or anti-hero, but of the rivals, enemies, and bête noire who surrounded him. This book gave the reader the opportunity of entering the mind not only of the subject of the book, but of the author himself, which was a marvellous privilege. This was done through a sprightly dialogue with other historical interpretations, conjuring up hilarious situations, and not shrinking from exposing the crimes, follies, and misfortunes of mankind, along with the sadistic savagery of an age of obsessive warmongering. Along the way, the author and the reader has a good deal of fun, which is an underestimated but essential ingredient in studying history. So for the inimitable combination of qualities, drawing on a huge multilingual reference of authoritative scholarship, never slowing the pace of a vivid narrative, for showing, among much else, that in 18th century Saxony, porcelain could be a continuation of foreign policy by other means. And for much else, we are delighted to award the 2025 ELHB to Tim Blanning for Augustus the Strong, a study in artistic greatness and political fiasco. Thank you.
No, I didn't need it to. Pastor, I love it.
Thank you very much, Roy. I've been told to be short, and I shall be short, but there are many thanks I wish to make. And the first, of course, first and foremost, is to the Fraser family for founding, for endowing and for administering this wonderful prize, but also for promoting historical biography as a genre. When I was an apprentice historian back in the 60s, people didn't matter quite so much. It was all about long-term forces, dread word, la longue durée. That was the rage. But what Richard Cobb used to call history without people. But people have never gone away, and neither has historical biography, and it flourishes like never before. And that has much to do with this prize, and long may that flourish as well until the end of time. And adding to that, my thanks go to those members of the Fraser family who themselves have shown how to do it with one masterpiece after another. The second person or individual I would like to thank is my publisher, Simon Winder of Penguin. This must have been something of a gamble to take on Augustus. Frederick the Great, about whom I'd written a biography a few years ago, was one thing, but Augustus was someone very few people had heard of. So every time it's got a decent review, and getting this prize has been the climax, I have felt pride on behalf of Simon and gratitude too. Thank you very much, Simon. Next, I'd like to thank my agent, James Pullen of the Wiley Agency, who alas cannot be here tonight. He has a sobriquet which I gave him, which is 10 James. That was what he added to the first offer from the Sony Corporation for a contribution to a set of CDs that they were commissioning. And add a naught is perhaps not the worst sobriquet for an agent to have. Next, I want to thank, first of all, Simon Dixon of SEAS, Slavonic and East European Studies at UCL, and also his colleague Richard Butterwick, both of whom nobly read the text, looking for errors in the Russian, in the case of Simon, and the Polish in the case of Richard. I'm fluent in German, but I cannot claim to be fluent in Polish in particular. All those consonants, how do they manage it? I don't know. Anyway, as far as I'm aware, they caught every possible mistake, and I'm grateful, very grateful to them for that. And then finally, I want to thank my wife. If I were even in monosyllables to list all the ways in which she has sustained me in my academic career and writing career, reaching a climax with Augustus, we would be here all night. But I've been told to be short, so I'm going to be short. And so I will stop now, and thank you very much for your attention and for coming tonight.
Thank you, Tim. This is your, there are two prizes. One is a cheque in an envelope for £5,000, tax-free. And the other is a bound copy, which all winners receive, of my grandmother's memoirs, The Pebbled Shore. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Flora. Thank you.
Huge pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Right. Step down and have drinks.
Yeah, time for a
And
drink.
anyone who has a drink, let's raise a glass in affectionate memory of Elizabeth Longford. Elizabeth Longford.